if rent and deposit are paid 2 months before actually moving into a property, does the rent need to be paid again at the end of the month you actually moved in? Or is the rent paid for that month and you only start paying again the next month? So I think it's around Juanita having paid rental and a deposit 2 months before actually moving in. And she wants to know, is there an obligation for her to then pay that rent again at the end of the month that she actually moved in? Bruno?
Sure. So if I'm sorry, I'm also just trying to understand the question. So the reason for moving in 2 months later is other people occupied the place and there was a lease up to the day we moved in. No, so you entered into a lease agreement. The lease agreement is a certain specified commencement date. So that's the date that the lease starts. Normally, the date that the lease starts is the date that you take occupation of the property. And that's the date that the rental becomes due. So month 1, you take occupation, you pay rent for month 1, and month 2, the following month, month 3, so on and so forth. The deposit is normally paid in order to secure the accommodation or the place of residence. So the only kind of exceptions that I typically find when it comes to things like this aren't with residential accommodation or residential properties, but typically around commercial properties where, for example, a person wants to secure a certain site ahead of time, even though they're only effectively going to move in 6 months' time, they'd want to secure it so they'd start paying rent from month 1 in order to secure the site for the next 6 months so that the landlord doesn't lose money. Otherwise, they might go out and find somebody else. In residential properties, this could potentially happen if it's the most amazing place and you want it so desperately that you're willing to pay 2 months ahead just to keep it empty so you can move in 2 months later, because obviously very few people would sign long-term lease agreements for a period only of 2 months. But under normal circumstances, if I know that I'm going to move into a place in June, the place is occupied, so I'm waiting now for June, and I move in on the 1st of July. The rent that I've paid now is basically for the July month, and the deposit is the deposit.